You're here because you are a man that wants to be around a group of guys that is going through this, that gives you tools, that gives you the mindsets, that gives you the motivation to fucking get up in the morning.
I'm gonna tell you about a woman whose heart is sunshine, whose body burned hot. I'm gonna tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way.
Welcome to the C-Note Show, guys. It's 11:02 here on Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. You are here because you're either experiencing death by female right now. She's saying, I love you, I'm not in love with you. I want separation, I want space, or the dreaded D-bomb, or you're afraid of that happening, or you're afraid of death by female. And I experienced that in 2015. And stories I've shared before that as well. And you're here because you are a man that wants to be around a group of guys that is going through this, that gives you tools, that gives you the mindsets, that gives you the motivation to fucking get up in the morning, even when it's 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in New Zealand or Australia. And we've got guys here from all around the world. I love you guys. And our theme of this week is how to reinvent yourself. That's right. You're a man starting to rise. Just being here on our show, here we do our daily work. And my beautiful, talented, feminine co-host, our perspective from a woman's point of view, professional coach, is Miss Cynthia Cruz. Hi, Cynthia.
Hey, good morning. So incredible to see all of you. And there was a joke before the show started of, guys being guys. I so appreciate being in this environment with men being men, with guys being guys. It is important and sacred and powerful and makes me learn and grow. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. So thank you for having me.
Oh, phenomenal. Thank you for being here, Cynthia. We appreciate you as well. Here we do our daily work. Our theme of this week is how to reinvent yourself. So let's start off with our question of the day. And then I've got a funny clip from The Office. And Cynthia has not seen this. I'm curious what her thoughts are. We anchor ourselves, guys, in the three forms of confidence: emotional confidence, behavioral confidence, and spiritual confidence. The how, the what, and the why. And most men on here have been here before. I love you guys for being here. Ian, Jason, and John, Kent, Joseph, Patrick. Phenomenal. Good to see you guys. Randy and Rob, of course, and Scott. Fantastic. And Andy's here too. Dan, if I missed Dan, we're here. And so, gentlemen, I want you to think into the three forms of confidence and what we've been learning over the past, going on 8 weeks now, going on 2 months on the C-Note Show, as we read a part of this from a man from the forum. I've had a nagging feeling that I can't get out of my head. Despite my really high level of frustration, I should be grateful for my wife in this marriage crisis. Sure, she drove me to feeling the lowest I've ever been. Her coldness continues today. There's still her itchy trigger finger firing contempt. Why gratitude? I believe he means, why should I have gratitude? The day she told me she no longer loves me, I realized I had become a guy that I was ashamed of, an angry, self-loathing recluse. This is what you posted. If you can unmute yourself, Hans.
Yeah, that's what I wrote.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, welcome, man. Because like I said, new to the show over the last, week?
Yeah, I've been trying to get as many as I can in.
Yeah, I love it. And so let me share the follow-up. Yeah, good. Thank you for coming on, man. I'll ask you to jump in a little bit later too. By the way, Hans, everything I say is with love, bro. Like, you're here to learn, right? So there's a smile. I got a smile from him. Look at that. So you said, thanks for the insightful response. Knowing in my heart that the person she led me to be, the rage-filled, whiny house servant, is dead, no longer able to rear its ugly head. The whiny house servant is dead. So Andy, I'm gonna press pause because we start with some comedy here in the show, right? So we want to laugh, and then we dive into the shit, and then we move forward with a plan and perspective and actual tools and what you're going to do with where you are right now, you and every man here. And this is what I wanted and needed in 2015. This kind of show wasn't available, and that's why we run this now. I found the local men's group with Good Guys to Great Men, Hans, with Steve Horseman 5 years ago. And so I did this shit. I was in the same spot as you in 2015, man. So I know how it goes. So I'm going to share this clip from The Office, and I'm really curious what Cynthia's going to think of it. Here we go. You'll see what I mean in a minute.
After you ended everything with us, I went on a vacation.
Sounds good. Sounds fun.
It was. I think I should just get right to the point, okay. I feel good about myself for the first time in a really long time, and I've made some big changes in my life. and I miss you.
Do you excuse me for a second?
She wants to get back together.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. That's why you're here. Help me.
You want to get back together with her?
No.
Just don't get back together with her.
What if she makes me?
How can she make you get back together with
She
her?
made me do a lot of things I didn't want to do.
You were not happy when you were with her.
I wasn't.
You're so much happier now.
Okay. Jan, we need to talk.
So she
Jan is
got a
in a
boob
different
job,
place
as you
right
couldn't
now.
tell.
And it is a sign of maturity to give people second chances.
Oh my God.
Bigger, actually.
That's crazy. I would never do that. Waste of money.
I find it offensive. Au natural, baby. That's how I like them. Swing low, sweet chariots.
I love fake boobs. Oftentimes you find them on strippers.
I feel like when we first got together, if we could talk about a way to approach a possible reconciliation.
Let's get back together.
No. I'll tell you this, it is not because of the boob job. Excuse me, boob enhancement. That would be shallow. And this is the opposite of shallow. This is emotionally magnificent.
He's emotionally magnificent. This is not shallow. It's emotionally magnificent. Oh my God. Swing low, sweet chariot. That's how I like him. Oh man. So, Cynthia, do you have any response to that clip there? Do you like to swing low, sweet chariot, or do you, what do you like?
The sweet chariot works as long as there's support along the way.
Oh my God. I love it so much. I love it. Okay. On that note, I want to share a quote that I pulled this morning from No More Mr. Nice Guy. So No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. Mine looks like the middle one there. I have the Audible with the guy rolling up his sleeves. And this is from chapter 7, which is entitled Get the Love You Want, Success Strategies for Intimate Relationships. And it just says, get a boob job. There, we're done. Okay, have a good day, gentlemen. All right, no, it doesn't say get a boob job. It says, this is a subheading. Patterns of enmeshment and avoidance prevent nice guys from getting the love that they want. Okay, I'm going to read this just a couple of chunks at a time, and I'm going to bounce it off of Cynthia, and I'm going to bounce it off the men that are here today. I want you guys to jump in or raise your hand in the participants section of Zoom, or post a question in chat, or jump in chat. And Cynthia, I'd love if you'd honor our chat. I'd appreciate it. Jason's already saying, get out of my story. Yeah, I think the boob job is a little triggering for Jason. We could talk about that too. So Dr. Robert Glover says there's 2 ways that nice guys prevent themselves from getting the love that they want. Number 1, they're overly involved at the expense of one's self and other outside interests. So overly involved. And the second one is being emotionally unavailable to a primary partner while playing the nice guy role outside of the relationship. So like nice guy to everyone else. And he says the enmeshing nice guy makes his partner his emotional center. His world revolves around her. She's more important than his work, his buddies, that's supposed to say, his hobbies. He will do whatever it takes to make her happy. He will even tolerate her bad moods, her rage attacks, her addictions, and emotional or sexual unavailability, all because he loves her so much. I sometimes refer to enmeshing nice guys as table dogs. They hover beneath the table just in case a scrap happens to fall their way, even though they're settling for the leftovers that fall from the table. Enmeshing nice guys think they are getting something really good. This pursuing and enmeshing behavior is an attempt to hook an emotional hose to his partner, to suck the life out of her and fill an empty place inside of him. She unconsciously picks up on this agenda and works like hell to make sure the nice guy can't get close enough to hook up the hose. Consequently, she's often seen as the one preventing the closeness the nice guy desires. So Cynthia, I'd love for you to jump in and give us some feedback. I'm sure that you've been on one end of this and you've shared on the show, and I've shared on the show that I've been on the enmeshing side of this as well. The avoiding side, I'm wondering from a woman of what maybe she's feeling if the man is trying to, as Mr. Robert Glover, Dr. Robert Glover says, trying to hook up an emotional hose to her. So she constantly fills him up and she constantly gives him validation. So I'm wondering what that feels like. And I unintentionally did that in my past relationship. I'm here to admit that. It's still even a little embarrassing to say that, even though I do my work with my own men's group here locally. I have my own men's coach, and I have for years at this point. I think we all should have someone above us, a group to the side of us, friends to the side of us, and other people that we're helping beneath us as well. And that's what we do on the forum, on our Great Men Move Mountains forum. So Cynthia, what does it feel like from a woman's point of view when the man is unintentionally trying to enmesh and hook up that emotional hose, and he's working like hell to try to win brownie points with her? What does that feel like for a woman, please?
It feels, and it's always actually kind of hard for me to share this because, again, I have also been on the other side of this. So what you read, Jeff, reminded me of being a teenager and 20-something. There always seemed to be like a plethora of girls and just one guy. And I just had all these experiences of being at parties or out to dinner with this one guy sitting at the table and all these girls vying for his attention. And I know what it's like to be seeking scraps and what that does to you, what that does to you when you receive this scrap, and what that does when you are ignored and pushed away. So on the other side of that, when we're kind of enmeshing with someone and seeking like breath from them, if I can just get some of your energy, I will feel whole, complete, less lonely, more embodied. It's like a cloying feeling, right? When you're in Colorado's a very dry climate, but if you're in a very humid climate and it's raining out, how you just feel like you can't escape the humidity, and it kind of makes you feel sticky and like, oh, I just want to take a shower. I think we can do that to each other when we're trying to get something from them in that way.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, Dan, I'm wondering if you can unmute yourself. Dan put a couple posts in the chat here talking about that I did that in my relationship. I did number 1, the enmeshment, and that you read this book a month ago. Dan, are you able to unmute yourself and come on it? Yeah, please go for it.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. Share your experience if you don't mind. Go for it.
Yeah. First of all, if anybody on this call hasn't read that book, do it. It is pretty revolutionary, and it was enlightening for me because through a lot of my relationship emotions to her mood, and the harder I tried, the more she pushed back. And the table scraps was really eye-opening. I'm like, wait, no, I want the best. I don't want the leftovers. But that was what I was settling for. As time went on in the relationship, I was definitely settling for that. And I realized when I read that, wow, I had really lost myself and had put so much emphasis on the relationship. It was actually having the opposite effect of what I was really looking for.
Yeah. So Dan, if you can hear me, what's been the step forward, just the small step that you've taken in the last maybe few days? I mean, I know more about your story, but what's the step that you've taken in the last week here?
A couple things. One is I've started doing the morning kingly plan, which has been awesome. And that has been very grounding and gives me insight of what I'm doing for me for the day and what I'm grateful for. So I'm not focused like I was on, oh, what's going wrong in the relationship and how can I change that, and kind of get sucked into that. I've also been spending time reconnecting with old relationships, old friendships, people who've known me for a long time. And that's been awesome. High school, college friends, people I used to work with. And that's been very empowering to focus on relationships I built for a long time and not really kind of what I've been enmeshed in the past year and a half.
Yeah, that's one thing that we want to get back right away, Dan, right? Is those connections with other men, whether it's like this or if we can actually get out in the world and do stuff together. That's phenomenal. So cool.
Yes. Yeah. So I found that to be really empowering. And I feel very different than I did before. I really felt lost when the relationship was going south. And I was really getting pushed away and feeling ignored, like you said, Cynthia. And that's a hard feeling. And realizing now that I have the power to use my own compass for happiness feels way better. So much better.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I'm going to go ahead and press pause for a moment right now, and I may come back to you. One thing so I want to, if you don't mind, Hans, ask you to come on in here in a second. Let me go ahead and share this morning kingly plan again, that this is within our private Facebook group as well, the Great Men Move Mountains private Facebook group, or you're welcome to take a screenshot of this right now. And this, I do the first 3 steps while I'm sitting on the toilet. Sitting on my throne in the morning takes less than 5 minutes to do. I'm really enjoying the 1-sentence appreciation journal I've been going on, I think 3 months or 4 months at this point. And if I miss yesterday, then I just fill that in and put it in. But I put 1 sentence every day of what I'm grateful for. So Hans, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to jump in, and I have a little bit more of your follow-up post, and I want to honor, Hans, that it already feels like, to be honest, man, it's like you're picking yourself up off the ground, whether it's with help from guys here or through your work. It really feels like you've turned into the wind, and you've started to fight this battle for your own self. Is that fair to say, Hans?
It's fair. I mean, I've always gone pretty, full force into something that I'm into, but I mean, this was just survival. Like, this was pick myself off the ground, just like you said, but it was like, just go all in and trying to, reinvent myself and get back into being alive again. Because, I mean, honestly, my wife and I are around each other all the time. I mean, still are, even though we've had this big strife. And lately it's been mellow, but definitely not romantic. But we've been side by side. I mean, going on 19 years, just like always by each other, like all the time. And it's just this drift that happened between us. Yeah, we'd spat and stuff, but we'd still see each other constantly. And, she even said divorce and everything. I thought I was going to pick up and leave, and it just kind of mellowed. But I still haven't reduced all the nice guy stuff. I don't even know how to anymore, right? So we have a 2-year-old who obviously needs a lot, and a 5-year-old that is, autistic. He needs stuff too. I mean, bright, enthusiastic kid, but he does need stuff, right? So we have our work together too, which, basically if we don't have a sitter, then it's like I'm watching the kids so she can paint, then I'm watching the kids, so vice versa. Yeah. And so we've kind of had the schedule that's kind of locked in place. So I don't even know how to, like, on top of that, she has fatigue issues, like, big time. And I don't know if that's something she can do something about, like, muscle through, but I mean, basically a lot of the stuff that I do around here, if I was just to stop and say, like, no, fuck that, you're doing this now, like, I don't even know how that would go. I mean, right. I can't even imagine a world where I'd even do that, because that's just, there's a need, boom, I step up and do it. And it's not even a thought. I'm not even thinking, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, so therefore she's going to be nice to me or whatever. I don't even get offended if she's not, like, outgoingly nice for things that I do. What really gets me is the contempt. Like, so it's like, where do you get off being, an asshole to me when I'm doing all these nice things for you? And I know that's the wrong attitude, but it's not like I'm even trying to get something for what I'm doing. It's just like, don't treat me like shit. It's like,
yeah, no, I hear you, man. Yeah, like, fucking A, kudos. I get that. So let me ask, if you don't mind, how have you said, hey, it's not cool to treat me like shit? I'm assuming you have, right? And how's that gone?
I mean, for the longest time, we weren't really even talking about anything between the two of us, because I'd bring something up and she would just say, oh, I've got to think about that. Okay, whatever. But as far as the, don't treat me like shit bit, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't even, it's more of like a scoff and like a walk away type thing. It never really got into a full dialogue, but she knows that, if I make a certain expression or something, she knows she's being an asshole. And a lot of times she'll even apologize for that later.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So can I ask you a question about that? Is that okay?
Sure.
So if I were to say, if I were to say, Hey, sweetie, I want to talk with you about something. And I noticed that, yeah, we've both been under a lot of pressure. And I noticed that we've started to kind of not do those connecting acts of love with one another. You know, I see that we kind of scoff at one another, or we roll eyes. And when we see each other first thing in the morning, we're not, you know, coming over and giving each other a smile and a kiss. I'd like to start doing that. So I'm going to start leading that. And I'm not asking anything of you. It'd be great if you would reciprocate. You know, that would be awesome. But I'm going to start leading in that way. Right? Has that crossed your mind, Hans? Or if I offered that to you, would you consider doing something like that?
Well, it's a little strained right now because, like, yeah, we're getting along okay, but she won't hold my hand. I mean, she wants no contact at all. So it's, you know, the kiss wouldn't go over so well.
Okay, sure. So that's fine. So let's rewind it back down the stairs.
Smile,
right?
and be friendly.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was going to say. It sounds like any kind of, you know, recognition, like, hi, good morning. So if you rewind it to say, hey, I know we're under a lot of pressure. I'd love it if we, you know, would just smile and say good morning to one another. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm not asking you to do anything, right? And I'm not holding your feet to the fire, but I'm going to start smiling and saying hi in the morning when I see you. Just so you know, there's nothing weird going on. I'm just, you know, putting my best foot forward. Right? If you were to say something like that, and I ask this kind of question to gentlemen all the time when I do one-on-one coaching, Hans, right? So the next question is, what do you think that she would say or do if you did that?
No, I think she'd be good with that. I mean, she would have to know that, and I would say it forthright, that I wouldn't expect anything in return. I mean, that works for me. And without making the conversation, that's kind of how it's been. I mean, I have been feeling much better about myself lately. So smiling at her and being calm when she's fuming and, you know, just being grumpy, it's like, it's gotten easier now. So, I mean, to point out, to say that, hey, look, this is the kind of decorum that I'm going to give, just put it in words. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'll give it a shot. I think she'll be good with that.
And so be real with me. I'm going to go back to your post here in a second. Be real with me. If she didn't do that back to you, would you be upset?
If she didn't do it back.
Yeah, if you were smiling and you said, hey, I'm going to be nice, I'm going to smile, and she didn't do it back, right? Would you be upset because she's not doing it back?
I mean, it might be a little irritating, but I don't think upset anymore. I think I've gotten better about upset. You know, the idea that, like, if I sat too close to her watching TV, like, she'd be willing to watch a TV show with me in bed, but if I got too close, she'd get uncomfortable. And there's no reason, like, I've never been aggressive with forcing anything on her. There's no reason to fear me as far as, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Or anything. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, that was so shocking that if she didn't reciprocate with good morning and a smile, like, that wouldn't shock me.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll be vulnerable myself. Thank you for sharing, Hans. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask Cynthia to jump here in a second from maybe why she's doing that, right? Because I'm feeling you're still really confused about that. So I'd love for Cynthia to jump in. But my vulnerability is, Hans, I was on the therapy couch next to my, you know, now ex, my wife at the time, for 6 months. And about 5 months in, she accused me, and she and the therapist accused me of being emotionally abusive. Right. And no one else ever in my life. I've been a teacher for over a decade. I work with kids with emotional disabilities and on the spectrum, you know, Hans, and like, that was my profession. And sure, I wasn't handling things great at home for a lot of different reasons, but then to label me as emotionally abusive was, wow, that was really tough. That was really, really tough. And so I've been in those spots where it's like, she doesn't have any reason, in my opinion, to think that. It's like I say, she has this Shakespearean drama, this Shakespearean tragedy going on, and she's trying to hand us, or she has put onto us, the pirate costume of the bad guy. And so I want to jump over to Cynthia and give us some feedback, please, from a woman's point of view, your professional point of view, Cynthia. Maybe what is she going through in saying she doesn't want any touch, and Hans is really surprised by her delineation now at this point.
Sure. Hans, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I could see and feel in you the honor and who you are as a man, that you were just like, how in the world could she need space from me? Like, there's nothing I have done to encroach on her or make her feel like she's anything less than safe. And I kind of want to throw out the bathwater of that it has anything to do with her physical safety, and only pour into that the idea that she is forming a protective bubble around herself for her own emotional process, her own self-protection, and what she thinks is going to make her feel grounded in herself, and maybe even feel less hard on herself. I've heard what you said about she struggles, I think you said, with chronic fatigue or something very similar to that. And I know that even though that probably feels out of her control, her self-judgment of that is probably pretty huge. And her lack of feeling self-reliant and that she can trust herself and her being is probably pretty huge. And so if there have been moments when she felt like maybe there was some irritation, like, come on, get up, like you've got to do things here, or quit criticizing me about things that I need to do because you need to rest. There's something in her that's going like this to herself. So she's protecting herself against perceived criticism. She's protecting herself against having compounded how she's already feeling about herself. And she's doing it in an unfair way. But it's her way of creating a container around herself. And so I think that is a way she's trying to feel strong. And yet there are other ways that she can feel strong and be more connected.
Yeah, Hans, do you have a follow-up question? I just wanted to let that soak for a second. Do you have a follow-up question for Cynthia? Because that's awesome perspective. And so my next thought would be, as if I'm you, Hans, awesome perspective. Okay, what's the next step? What's the next plan here? And so I'll ask you, Hans, what question might you have for Cynthia on next steps for you, from your own gut?
Okay. So we've had, for months and months and months. This is going on kind of 2 years that things have just been on the slide. So for the longest time, I had no answers. I was just getting angry because affection was fading, criticism was amping up, and I was getting nothing from her, as to why this is happening. I was just getting pissed, and I deserve a lot of criticism for the mood I was in and the behavior of argumentative and defensive and just not fun to be around. And that's probably a stain that I can't get rid of now, or at least I'm trying to get her to see that I've changed. But the thing that I don't get, and this is something maybe she could help me with, is in February, she said the whole "I don't love you as a husband" bit, right? That half the people here, if not more, have said they've gotten. So that was earth shattering. That was the wake up call to say, who the hell are you anymore? So all this time, yeah, I've had a slip up here or there. She's agitated me to the point where we've gotten into a scuffle, but I'm trying to hear her, which was her big concern. Is she said that I dominated the relationship for so long that she didn't have a voice, and that if we argue, then I feel like she feels like I invalidated her or silenced her or anything. But honestly, I've taken an enormous step back from that, and she sees that I'm just working hard every day. She's accused me of just trying to trick her into coming back to the table. All of it's a some devious scheme, but the question really is like, where does this first step from her come from? How do you convince her to even come to the table as far as acting like a committed couple rather than this sort of co-parenting roommate, that to where I can convince her that I've changed, that I've convinced her that I feel it in my heart that I'm not this bitter, angry person anymore. And she knew from at least 17 years of being together that I can be lighthearted, I can be, fun, that she knows that the big catalyst for that was that she abandoned me, basically. I mean, she just withdrew all this affection and just drove me into this frenzy, like this tailspin.
Yeah.
I'm still picking up the pieces, of course, but I mean, honestly, I'm feeling better today than I have at least in the last 2 years. I mean, I love everything about my kids, but I mean, that was kind of like the beginning of this tailspin. But, and her fatigue lately, it's been unmanageable. Basically, she's been, resting every day. She sleeps in. We've been splitting that up more lately, just setting some boundaries. Like, look, you're going to take a few days of the week, and she's good with that too. I mean, she wants to be more active, but I don't know. I don't know. I just don't get how over this period of time. I mean, what are we in June now? I mean, almost. I mean, going on 4 or 5 months of honestly trying to meet an expectation of myself that I can be proud of, but also these are some of the complaints she was complaining about. So if I can fix me and she can see it, like, just out of good faith. I mean, just to come to the table a little bit. I don't know. I don't even know if there's a question in there.
Sure. Well,
just kind of ranting.
Hanze, I wanted to share with you that today, your energy is so different than I've seen you on the couple shows before. There's a like a masculine presence, and then at the same time your face is a little softer, like there's less anger and frustration there. And I just wanted to say that you even saying like today is I haven't felt this good in like 2 years is huge. And Jeff's talks about the stages of coaching. Like the first stage is like we kind of stop fucking up, we stop yelling, we stop criticizing, we stop doing the things that we're not very proud of. And then the next step is grow, and we really seek to grow ourselves. And then we start asking the woman in our life to come to the table. And the grow part has come to a point where you can start to ask when you're no longer attached to showing her that you've changed, that you are so solid in how you know that you're showing up, that it doesn't matter if you feel like she's seeing that or not, because you know that your presence and your energy is changing the space between you. And Andy even said, and I'll defer to, like, I know this is like a man's journey, that the whole wanting to let your wife see that you've changed is like a really powerful pull on your thoughts at this stage. And I want to say that from a woman's perspective, you standing in your masculine presence in that open-hearted place where you're doing your work and you have vision for how you want things to move forward and you're setting boundaries, that's the thing that's going to invite her forward more than trying to prove to her that you've changed, because it's not all you. Like, she needs to show up too. And so you're modeling how to show up, particularly in this place where she's dealing with something like chronic fatigue, because that's pretty indicative of, her needing to learn how to process her emotional world, accept and rest in her own femininity. And one of the most healing things you can do for her is exactly the work you're doing and being in your presence. There's something about masculine presence that just heals the feminine soul. And I know that's not a very like concrete thing, but I've experienced it over and over in my own life.
That helps.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Cynthia. I'm going to jump in, Hans. I'm going to give you a couple of quick things, right? So I agree with Cynthia fully. And she talked about the 3 forms of confidence and the stages of coaching, right? So this is the stages of coaching over time. Now, next chapter, future chapter. Okay. Stop, grow, ask. And then the 3 forms of confidence are, well, what do I work on as I move forward? It's how to have emotional control, what to say, and the why as far as a spiritual mindset. Okay, so something that I've been working on the past couple of days, I want to throw at you, Hans, and then I've got a video from Mark Manson. He's probably like, Jesus, let me off the hook here, guys. No, you're doing awesome, dude. One thing I've been thinking about is really the spiritual confidence is this underpinning, which you've talked about, Hans, on the forum, and your belief in God and your spiritual beliefs. Yes. So there's a spiritual underpinning that is timeless, that moves forward into the future and into the past and our current present. That's always there. Is the undercurrent, okay? And then there's the bodily wants, the romantic love, the needs in the moment, which we all honor. We're not Buddhist here. We're not preaching Buddhism and complete detachment of wanting nothing. So it's those 2 things at the same time, okay? And what really gets confusing is when we try to focus on just one, like, oh, well, I shouldn't want, but I do. And she's like a bitch today, and that's really not cool. And I wish she was cooler to me right now. Or, oh, I'm this enlightened man that nothing ever bothers me, and it's just this one. But really what's happening is both of those at the same time, okay? And if we can honor that, then we can look at, well, which one maybe has a leak in it right now? And that's the first one we attack, right? So if you feel really strong about your spirituality and you feel like, well, I'm kind of exploding when I shouldn't, then the emotional confidence, the emotional control would be where you would go, what you would work on. Or if I'm not sure what to say, what to do, the behavioral skills, then you read more of a book and you talk to the men and you get the behavioral skills. Okay. So you don't need to be like, oh, Jeff and Cynthia, that was amazing. I just wanted to give that to you. And I'll read the last thing that you said here, which really inspired me from your post, which was, I blew this up, so let me grab it here, which was, letting people in and working through matters of the heart is all new territory. Thanks, in all seriousness. I've been feeling better about myself lately. The work is paying off, and with the forum of like-minded men, I can't fail. You have all been God sent. So thank you so much, Hans. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Yeah, super cool. Hopefully we see you again. Hopefully we didn't scare him away, guys. So do me a favor, and if you haven't already, privately chat Hans. So reach out to him, private chat him, message him over Facebook. That's why we're here, guys. That's why we're on the C-Note show, so we can live chat with other men in the chat or private chat, or connect with them on our private Facebook group as well. And, by the way, if you're not in our private Facebook group and you're watching this, go to our website, greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook, and punch in your information, and we'll invite you in personally, because you have to be invited in, or a man that's already in there can invite a friend in, and then we still have to approve them. So it's not an open group. You have to be invited. And so that's how you do that. I want to honor a couple men here, and then I'm going to show a couple of minutes from a brand new from 3 days ago, Mark Manson video entitled, How to Make Someone Change. How to Make Someone Change. And Cynthia, if you take a look at our participant section and honor our men that are here, I'd really appreciate you doing that right now, please.
Yeah, I just end up smiling when I see all of your names pop on. Dennis Block is here, Hossein, Chris Belfry's here, Harry, Pat is here. Thank you for being here, Pat. And Joseph is here. Ian is here, and I see he's off on a wild bike adventure as always. And Patrick is here. Patrick, I think of you every morning as I get grumpy about trying to get out of bed at 5:30. I'm like, Patrick's already been at it for half an hour in his world. Rob's here. Walters is here. Thank you. And Kent is here. Kent, I'm loving these mugs so much. They are awesome. And Andy's here. Thank you. And Randy, and Jason, and Scott, and again, Hans, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, fantastic. So Kent sent us, well, we purchased them, but these are from his company. So our logo and then the C-note show on this side. And we're going to send these to every man who's in our inner circle. And so if Cynthia has your physical address, we're going to send these to you. And I'd love every man who's on here right now to get one of these. So make sure Cynthia has your physical address. You know, I'm just doing this. I believe in heart in business, left foot, right foot. And we're doing great in business. I actually told where I get some of my leads. I'm an affiliate with Steve Horseman and Dan Dorr, and they send some gentlemen my way that are brand new to the community, right? Where I do the first consult call for no charge, no strings attached, like I always do. So whether you come in through Great Men Move Mountains or Good Guys to Great Men, and they send, you know, brand new gentlemen my way, I had to press pause for the next 10 days on gentlemen coming in for a consult call because I'm booked up for the next 10 days at this point. If you guys, you know, like if one of you wanted to talk with me, I'd make time. I save a Saturday morning slot. I save a Saturday morning slot for, I'll call it men that are in the inner circle, right? So I can definitely bring you in if I know you from our show. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, like, so point is, business is great, and I'm happy to purchase these and send these to you guys because we love your support. And the whole goal of this is that it's a strong tribe of men, right? And this helps me work through my stuff and stay up-leveled. So Jason has also talked about how being around men and staying up-leveled is something that's, you know, ongoing. I've been doing this solid since the end of 2015, and I still do this work myself. I literally tonight have our men's group, our local men's group, you know, for myself and my peers, and Steve is going to run it, or Tim is going to run it tonight, Tim Wade. So really cool stuff. So thank you so much, guys. All right, I'm going to share this video from Mark Manson that was just released 3 days ago on June 7th. It's really cool. I'm going to stop it after about 1 minute and 45 seconds, and we'll talk about it. Here we go.
So everybody's got that person in their life that they think, if only I could get them to change that one thing. You wish that they would maybe eat a little bit less, or drink a little bit less, or smoke less, or dress better, get off the fucking couch every once in a while. We all know that one person in our life that is just completely fucking up, and we would do anything that we could possibly do to change them, to fix them, to get them to understand that if they just did things different, life would be better for them. And everybody asks me, how can I change him or her? How can I change this person in my life? And my answer is always the same. You don't. You fucking don't. You can't change somebody. You cannot make somebody do something that they have not already chosen to do. I was a fuck up when I was a teenager. I had teachers trying to help me, trying to get me to study more. My parents were trying to get me to stay home and not fucking smoke weed. There were a lot of people in my life for many years that were trying to influence my behaviors in a positive direction. And I resented that a lot because I felt on some level, it just felt like people didn't trust me to figure things out for myself. And I think that's a difficult thing about help, is that when you try to help somebody who's not asking for it, you just piss them off. And when you piss somebody off, they're only going to want to continue doing what they're doing even more.
So what do you gentlemen think about that? I'd love for the first person to unmute themselves to give some feedback on, yeah, Scott, what do you think about if you're trying to help someone that doesn't want it, it just pisses them off? Did you mean to unmute yourself? Go for it, Scott.
Oh, yeah, I meant to unmute myself for sure.
Good, go for it.
So I'm in Target right now. But let me see. Yeah, man, it's like for me, being a parent, you know, I have, you know, they have the grandparents, and it's like when they try and tell you how to raise your kid, I look at them, I'm like, I'm like, serious, you raised me. I remember how you raised me, and you're trying to give me advice. It's just, it's sometimes it like just irritates me so bad. But then I just like, I walk away, I take a breath, and I say, thank you. But it's, yeah, that's the same way. It's like trying to help a friend who doesn't want to be helped. Like, you know, I have family members that are addicted to substances, and you know, you try and hold their hand, but nah, man, they have to do it themselves. They got to fall. They got to get back up. Otherwise it's just, you know, you're spending your own time and energy for nothing, and you're the one dwelling on it, not them. So I find it kind of like resentment, and then you start resenting them for not changing, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Can you take a question? Can you talk for another 30 seconds?
Yeah, man, I'm drinking coffee. What up?
So obviously our children are one thing. Like if they don't like what we're doing, that's one thing, and we set up boundaries in a different way. But if they're your family, so how can you enforce boundaries, or you control your energy that you give into your family member? How have you tried that they have substance problems? How have you tried to have a boundary with them?
Well, that one I just had to give up until he found himself. So that was just release, you know. But other ones, like with the grandparents trying to teach me how to raise my kids, that one I it takes a minute sometimes for me to process and walk away and just breathe. And then I'm like, I'll either be straight up with them and say, hey, I don't need, you know, right now I don't need your advice because it's just going to make me mad without turning into Hulk. Jeff's Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm more like shredded Captain America.
Right.
But
okay. All right, dude. Yeah.
I'm messing with you. But no. Other than that, it's just I just try and take out the good advice and try and actually like listen without that first block, you know, where I'm like, just like sometimes it's just, you know, and I hear nothing except for just, you're not doing stuff right, you know, and then that pisses me off. But to find it, I just got to relax sometimes. I got to listen to the words and not the tone. And that's kind of where I find myself in a happier place listening to that. But mainly it's about my kids. I get defensive of my kids fast, and I try not to. Myself, I can take lightly, but when they're talking about my kids, I'm like, you know, it can piss me off.
I know what you mean. I'm going to go ahead and press pause, Scott. Thank you so much. A couple things about what you just said. The last thing you just said was, I try to listen to the words and not the tone, which is kind of the opposite of what we're trying to teach and learn about a woman, where we're listening to the tone and not the words, right? And so Scott, you're saying you're trying to honor what they're saying without feeling judgment of what they're saying. And that's the same kind of outcome we're hoping to get with a woman when we're looking at, we're feeling her pain. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before on our show, I read a quote from The Masculine in Relationship about separating her pain from the blame that you're feeling, right? So you can feel that intense need to defend yourself, but the goal is to feel the pain that she's expressing to you and to know what to do with that. So that's what we teach around the 3 forms of confidence, is to know what to do with the tension, to know what to say so you are attractive in her mind, and to know how to stand up for yourself and have the mindset. And that's why, you know, we have this show. We're happy to field, you know, your questions. We're getting close to the end of our show today. If you put questions in the chat, then we will definitely get the transcript. If you put questions in the private Facebook group, we get that as well. And, you know, guys, if you want to progress as fast as possible, that's why we do one-on-one coaching, right? So you can reach out to us for one-on-one coaching so you learn those 3 forms of confidence as quickly as possible. And so I'm going to share quickly, and I'll bounce over to Cynthia in a moment here. I am going to share the link of that Mark Manson clip in the chat, and I'm hoping to share 2 more minutes of that as well. I wanted to go over here to No More Mr. Nice Guy and share about the other faulty way that a nice guy tries to get love. The first one is enmeshing. And the second one is avoiding. Avoiding can be a little tougher to get a handle on. The avoiding nice guy seems to put his job, hobbies, parents, and everything else before his primary relationship. He may not seem like a nice guy to his partner, but all because he is often nice to her. Seems like the nice guy is nice to everyone except for her. He does, you know, he helps the neighbor, he washes his car for 4 hours, he goes over to his parents' house to fix the roof or whatever else he's doing. And even though he may not be following his spouse around and cater to her every whim like the enmesher would, he still operates from a covert contract that since he is a nice guy, she should be available to him even if he is unavailable to her. Even if he is unavailable to her, he expects her to be available to him. I see this a lot with gentlemen who have been high-powered in success. I spoke with a COO this week, also a chief revenue officer this week as well, where they spent like 15 years kicking ass in the world, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, building up, their career and money and supporting the usually 3 or 4 kids. And now it's 15 years later and he's wanting more connection and her to be available. And shit, she just had 15 years of him not being available. So she's gotten used to him not being available, right? And the enmesher, she's gotten used to pushing away from him, right? And so if we're 10 or 15 years down the road and all of a sudden turning and, well, how come I can't have closeness with her? So Cynthia, for the man that's like kicked ass in the world, been out achieving in the world, and now is turning and wanting more closeness and connection, and he doesn't understand why she's just not jumping into depth with him, that she's not opening her bottom drawer to him, like you say, what can be, and I understand that we're getting close to the end of our show, but what can be his perspective on time frame? So this is back to kind of what Hans was saying too. Not exactly the same scenario, obviously, but what's the time frame of how that man needs to think about reconnecting with her or helping her blossom again? How can he think about that?
So I can think about my own self, and if I've been in a partnership where, that connection hasn't been happening, and how I have in the past, it's been like, okay, well, I have to accommodate. I can't be wanting this right now because it's too painful. And so if my, deepest wants, desires as a feminine woman is kind of like a chest of drawers, like, you've got the top drawer and then you've got the deep, deep bottom drawer desires. I have like firmly shut those so that I don't feel weak or needy, and I can kind of self-accommodate. So if in this wonderful situation, a gentleman's inviting that connection back into his relationship, you want to start first by understanding what a gift you're offering, and that it is never too late. And I don't care if your current relationship doesn't end up where you want it to. I don't care if you're bringing this to a new relationship. It's never too late to bring connection into the life of someone else. But thinking about it like a chest of drawers, and you want to start with the top drawer. And that drawer is often the smallest one, right? It's often where we keep socks. So that's where you're starting, is like you're connecting at the sock drawer level, and it's not hugely deep, but once you get there, then you're going to the second one and then the third one. And that is the process. That is the timing, and giving more time to it than you might think is needed.
Yeah, more time. That's not what we want to hear, right? So more time than we think is needed. But I love how you talked about the progression of opening the top drawer. That's like the staircase of intimacy. That's our free audiobook. It's a 45-minute audiobook about the staircase of intimacy. I love that so much, Cynthia. And that's why we're here also, guys, yesterday I also told a man that I'm like the pace car going 20 miles an hour in front of you, and we're going through a school zone, and the school zone lights are flashing, and I'm the pace car, and you're just behind me like, motherfucker, oh God, we're in the fucking school zone right now. Oh God, I wish I could hit 75 and open it up on the highway, or 95 and open it up on the highway. But guess what? The bridge is out up ahead. And I'm slowing you down so that we have time to repair the bridge, or build a new bridge is a better metaphor for before we get there, right? We've got to have a new bridge in our own 3 forms of confidence and in a connection with her before we get there. And that's why we're the pace car. And you may not always love what we have to say, but we're here for you. Yeah. Thanks, guys, who were saying great show today. So Cynthia, let's say thank you to our men.
Thank you for all that you shared, and the space that you hold for each other, for the masculine energy here, for the feminine here. And I know Jeff was just kind of teasing me a little bit about that's like not what we want to hear, that things take time. And I will say that sometimes the first third of the journey feels like we're moving through mud, and then we get out of the mud and we get to run along the path. And then we get to the end of the dirt path, and all of a sudden it's pavement. And that's when we really get to take off. And I think all of us would agree that running on pavement where you get to feel like you're flying and really making headway is worth getting out of the mud and moving through the forest to get to that point. So I just wanted to offer that.
Oh, so phenomenal. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you, gentlemen, are here, and everyone who said thank you for the show and chat today, and all your engaging with other guys and on the chat and in the private forum and the private chat as well. Love you guys so much. This has been the C-Note Show, brought to you by Great Men Move Mountains and greatmenmovemountains.com. If you're not a part of our private Facebook group, it's free. So go to greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook and punch in your information, and we'll invite you in. You must be invited in. So we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain, just like every day, Monday through Friday. So cool. So here's 30 seconds of a forum post that we're going to use as a teaser. We will bring this up again. So he texted his wife, even though she said that she wants no contact, and she responded, not happy. Why did you feel you needed to tell me that? And if you really wanted to know, ask a question. So she was really upset and like threw it back in his face that he broke no contact. And he says, man, I feel like I reached out only to have it slap back in my face. 1 step forward, 3 steps back. I was doing okay the past couple days, but this kind of stuff just makes me want to give up. I genuinely care about this woman, but I broke no contact, so I broke that also, right? So that's someplace that we've all been of, okay, should I reach out to her? And that's why we have this group. Like, take your stuff to the men so you don't just kind of violate what you think you should be doing, or you're guessing. You don't want to be shooting in the dark, right? So hire a coach if you want the most one-on-one help, or bring that stuff to the men. That's why we're here. We're going to talk more about that over the next 2 days here, of how to reinvent yourself in that way. So here's 2 more minutes of this awesome Mark Manson clip. Here we go.
There's a really interesting concept in kind of the whole addiction world, which is known as enabling. Way back in the day, with a bunch of Alcoholics Anonymous people got together, and they stumbled across something very interesting, which is that they discovered that it was often the people who were trying to help them the most who actually made it easier for them to start drinking again. And this was usually because they were removing the negative consequences from their choices. You know, they get blackout drunk, pass out face down in a ditch, wreck the car. This loved one would come and just clean everything up, just fix things for them as if nothing ever happened. And they realized that though these people loved them and had good intentions, they were enabling their bad behavior through their help. Oftentimes by trying to help people too much, we enable them to keep fucking up. The problem with trying to fix someone or make somebody change too is that even if they do what you want them to do, they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for you. You know, it's like if I put a gun to your head and make you eat vegetables for the next week, you're not gonna magically fix your nutrition issues. No, you're gonna do all those things because I had a fucking gun to your head. Not because you actually wanted to build good habits, or that you wanted to take care of yourself, or that because you care about your body. Look, when you try to change somebody, even though you have great intentions, even though you might even be trying to get the person to do the right thing, you're violating their autonomy. You're violating their ability to choose for themselves. And on a very, very subtle level, this is experienced as some form of disrespect by the person. See, when you rob people of the ability to make the right decisions for themselves, in a weird way, they actually don't get the emotional benefit of doing the good thing.
I love that. If you rob them, they don't get the emotional benefit. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. We still have the 3 forms of love, the Greek forms of love we wanted to talk about. But have a great rest of your Wednesday, guys. We'll pick it up tomorrow morning. Ciao.
Whose body burn hot. I'ma tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she moves that she cares, and it's lovely too.